The first time I realized something was wrong, it wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet. Too quiet. Just a soft click and a brief flash of light bouncing off my living room window around 4:30 in the afternoon. I was sitting at my kitchen table, which I proudly call my home office, even though it's really just a table with coffee stains and overdue bills, trying to convince a client that changing the logo color for the fourth time this week was not a minor tweak. Then I saw it. The reflection. A phone lens. Someone standing very still on the sidewalk. Her name was Linda Crow. I didn't know it yet, but I would. Mid-50s, always dressed like she was on her way to a fitness class she never actually attended, posture stiff, eyes sharp. She wasn't admiring the neighborhood. She wasn't texting. She was taking pictures of my house. Not casually either. This was methodical. Step to the right. Photo. Step to the left. Photo. Zoom in. Pause. Write something down in a small notebook like she was logging evidence at a crime scene. I slid down in my chair, feeling ridiculous, then slowly rose back up because pretending you didn't see something like that somehow feels worse. She was still there. Still staring. Still documenting. And the unsettling part wasn't just the photos. It was the confidence. Like she knew she had the right to do this. Like my house, my space, wasn't really mine. Now, let me be clear. My house was boring. Painfully boring. Beige siding. Small porch. 2 columns that had never inspired a single thought in anyone's head. I chose this place because it was quiet, predictable, invisible. After a rough few years, invisible felt safe. The only thing even slightly different about it was my front door. I'd painted it a deep slate blue. Not loud. Not flashy. Just enough color to remind myself I still existed. Apparently, that was a mistake. A few days later, I ran into Linda while dragging my trash bin to the curb. I decided to be an adult about it. Smile. Ask politely. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was a harmless explanation. Hey Linda, I said, keeping my voice light. Quick question. I've noticed you taking pictures of my house. Everything okay? She stopped walking and turned slowly, like I'd interrupted something important. I'm documenting violations, she said flatly. Violations. Not concern. Not curiosity. Violations. Violations of what? I asked. The neighborhood association rules, she replied. Your lawn is over the regulated height. I looked down. It was grass. Green. Alive. Slightly uneven because I work long hours and mow when I can. You measured my lawn? I asked, half joking. I have a measuring tool, she said without blinking. Of course she did. Then she gestured toward my front door. That color isn't approved. It disrupts the uniform appearance of the community. Disrupts. Uniform appearance. I glanced around at the identical row of beige houses, each one a copy of the last. It's blue, I said. A dark blue. It's not on the approved palette. The guy down the street has a giant metal sun bolted to his garage, I said. That was approved years ago. And with that, she tugged her tiny dog along and walked away, leaving me standing there next to my trash feeling like I'd just been written up by a hall monitor who never went home. The letter arrived a week later. Official envelope. Association logo. Notice of noncompliance stamped across the top like an accusation. My crime was listed in sterile language. Unapproved exterior color modification impacting neighborhood cohesion. Stapled to the bottom was a grainy photo of my front door taken from the sidewalk. Her photo. I sat on my porch steps holding that letter longer than I'd like to admit. Not angry, just tired. Because this wasn't really about a door. It was about control. And people like Linda don't go after the loud ones. They go after the quiet ones. The ones who keep their heads down. The ones who don't make trouble. Still, I tried to do things the right way. I emailed the association. Polite. Respectful. I explained my reasoning, attached photos, pointed out other houses with variations. I used words like tasteful and subtle, which hurt a little. Their response came 2 days later. One sentence. Please refer to the approved color options in your welcome packet. I pulled the packet out from under a stack of old mail. 3 colors. 3 shades of despair. Beige, off beige, and what I can only describe as sad mushroom. That's when I realized logic wasn't going to help me. So I tried passive solutions. Linda always did her photo patrol between 4 and 5 p.m. when the sun hit my porch just right. I started running my sprinkler during that hour, just the narrow strip by the sidewalk. The first time she got misted, she jumped back like she'd been sprayed with acid and shot me a look that could strip paint. The next day, she wore different shoes and kept going. I planted a tall shrub directly in her favorite line of sight. Dug the hole myself. Felt very proud. It worked for exactly 3 days. Then she simply moved 10 feet down the sidewalk and resumed her work. I even tried humor. One afternoon, when I caught her mid-photo, I opened my door, stepped onto the porch, and said, "Make sure you get my good side." She didn't even react. She just wrote something in her notebook and walked away like I was furniture. That night, I called my friend Aaron, who lives in a downtown apartment where nobody cares what color your door is because everyone's too busy minding their own business. I vented. He laughed. "Just ignore her," he said. "She'll get bored." "You don't understand," I replied. "This woman has unlimited time and absolute certainty." Then I said it without thinking. "I need something reflective." The word hung there. Reflective. That night, around 2 a.m., I fell down an internet rabbit hole of neighborhood feuds, HOA horror stories, and creative acts of resistance. Somewhere between a post about a spite fence and a story about someone installing 12 wind chimes, I watched a video of an old carnival funhouse. Distorted mirrors. Faces stretched, squashed, twisted beyond recognition. People laughing at their own warped reflections. And suddenly it clicked. If Linda wanted photos, I'd give her photos. Photos she couldn't use. Photos that turned documentation into absurdity. The next morning, fueled by caffeine and stubbornness, I started calling glass companies. Most hung up as soon as I said, "Funhouse mirrors." One laughed. One asked if I was joking. Finally, I reached a place called Coastal Glass and Metal. A gruff, older man named Ray answered. I explained the situation. There was a long pause. Then he sighed and said, "Let me guess. HOA." "Yes." "What did your neighbor do?" I told him everything. He listened. Then he chuckled. "All right," he said. "Let's make something unforgettable." Ray showed up 2 days later. 60s. Thick arms. Gray beard. Calm confidence. He walked my porch slowly, nodding. I showed him my idea. A large wavy panel on the main wall, a convex mirror near the corner, and a tall stretching mirror right beside the door. "You're going for chaos," he said. "Controlled chaos," I replied. He warned me it wouldn't be cheap. Asked if I was sure. I looked across the street at Linda's house and said, "This is cheaper than therapy." A week later, installation day arrived. Ray and his apprentice unloaded massive wrapped panels while the neighborhood watched like it was a public trial. The association president slowed his walk to stare. Curtains twitched. Nobody said a word. When they finished, my once invisible porch had transformed into a shimmering wall of distorted reflections. Sunlight bounced in strange patterns. It looked insane. It looked alive. Ray wiped his hands and said, "Send me her reaction." At 4:08 p.m., right on schedule, Linda appeared. She marched to her usual spot, raised her phone, and froze. She looked down at her screen, then up at my porch, then back again. She stepped closer and caught herself in the wavy mirror. Her face slid sideways. Her hair twisted unnaturally. She stumbled back into the convex mirror's view. Now her head was massive, her body tiny. She made this sharp, frustrated sound. She tried another angle and was suddenly stretched tall and thin like a distorted shadow. Every shot failed her. Evidence became nonsense. She lowered her phone slowly, staring at my porch like it had betrayed her personally. Then she let out a raw, furious noise and stormed back toward her house. Inside, I leaned against the wall, shaking with silent laughter. Not because it was funny. Okay, maybe a little. But because for the first time, I wasn't the one shrinking. 2 peaceful days passed. No photos. No notebook. Then, on the 3rd day, a police cruiser rolled up. 2 officers approached. The younger one started quoting city code about glare. The older one glanced at my mirrors, sighed, and said, "It's mirrors. We can't ticket the sun." He looked at me and added quietly, "We get calls from her a lot." They left. The next evening, the association president showed up with an emergency hearing notice. That night, Aaron sent me screenshots from the neighborhood Facebook group. Linda had posted a furious rant about my disturbing installation, complete with photos of her own distorted reflection. And the comments weren't what she expected. Some people complained. Others laughed. Parents said their kids loved it. Someone wrote, "Maybe stop photographing his house." Saturday's meeting was packed. Linda presented first. She had slides. Claimed my porch threatened community values. showed warped images of herself, and called it proof. Then it was my turn. I told them the truth. About the photos, the door, the letters, the feeling of being watched. I pointed out that the mirrors weren't permanent, weren't dangerous, weren't loud. They just reflected. And if you don't like what you see, I said calmly, maybe stop standing there. The room shifted. Neighbors spoke up. More than I expected. People admitted they'd been reported too. Over grass. Over decorations. Over nothing. The board huddled, then ruled. No forced removal. No rule broken. Linda didn't look at me. She gathered her binder and left. After that, she stopped. No more photos. No more notes. She crossed the street to avoid my house. I planned to take the mirrors down. But then kids started stopping to make faces. Neighbors laughed. Someone thanked me for breaking the beige curse. And now I'm left with a question I still don't have an easy answer to. Did I stand up for myself? Or did I win by humiliating someone who deserved pushback, but not spectacle? Where's the line between justice and pettiness? Between defending your space and becoming the loudest thing on the block? So I'll ask you, was I right, or did I go too far? If you were in my place, would you have fought back, or painted the door beige and kept the peace? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me what you would have done, because stories like this aren't really about doors or mirrors. They're about power, control, and what happens when quiet people finally decide they're done being watched.